start by discussing your interest in Dante's The Divine Comedy and why it inspired you to create a three-part musical epic.
In the first place, I guess every human being through his or her lifetime, has that certain question, where we as a human being come from, where we go to, and what the whole life thing is all about. And that has nothing to do with some stupid esoteric behaviors or some fashionable movements within the esoteric scene. So it's a very deep thing which comes up from time to time, and we find out that just Shakespeare, Dante, and the German writer Goethe had with his Faust piece, has touched the deep area of where you get answers to some sort of questions. And specifically Dante has inspired us very much. I mean, it's a huge project, so we just used a bit of the lyrics. And so, which has given already some people and kind of an area where they can start exploring themselves, that connection.
You've devoted 7 years to this project already, right?
Yeah. It took me just about a year and a half to read everything. It's a huge book. No, and we started with Inferno, which meant to be the situation mankind is into right now. I mean, that's the planet Earth is Inferno. And Purgatorio, the second part, is the movement out of that kind of struggle. And the third part, Paradiso, is a kind of level of consciousness the human being could reach after certain levels of development. And so to get closer to what the writer was talking about, you have to consider quite carefully what you do and how to do it, and if you do it traditionally, or if you orchestrate the music, or if you work from avant-garde type of structures, or if you move into something else which is nearly unheard. So that needs to be decided before you even start.
Tell me about your process for translating literature as complex as Dante into musical ideas. There
were two ways. The first way is like composers like Franz Liszt, to take one of them, who composed pieces like Inferno and Purgatorio. He never touched Paradiso, so he made it very dramatic and orchestrated things, and so everybody did expect that by composing Inferno, he would hear that hell type of thing, very crashing sounds and dissonance and that kind of music. And we decided to go to move into the opposite direction. So it's like if a human being is trapped in the most imaginable pain and trapped in a disastrous situation, in life, or in life as a subconscious level, whatever, that those people need some sort of support, help, and so we decided to create music which is more kind of full of desire for a different other level than the level those persons are into, to help them to create the desire for another level of consciousness. And so therefore the music is not really reflecting a horrifying situation, other than Purgatorio, where we've chosen some real up-tempo pieces and a lot of sequences stuff, and because it's a very moving part where you have to step through different levels and circles and cycles, and to get into kind of your own development of consciousness, and so that's a very moving situation, and ups and downs, and I guess the music we've created reflects that.
And what about for Paradiso when you do that?
That's very hard. That's very hard. We are right into it, and because no one ever has composed that part of the book, because it's, in fact, it is something you can't describe in any way by words. It's so out of any imagination, and so if you start composing traditional music, you bring something on a very high level, you bring it down to a lower level, which is not the aim, and so. Right now, it's a stage of production where we are completely in a different direction than Tangerine Dream ever went to, and it's not avant-garde, it's not orchestrated, it's a very strange thing, but it will be a surprise against the first two releases. It's not traditional. That's all I can say right now. It's even not the typical avant-garde type of thing. It really will move people, and that's what the aim of the entire book is. You have to move people, otherwise it's just another piece of entertainment. That's what we are not into.
Your use of vocalists on Inferno and Purgatorio, you use them with a sophistication and complexity that we haven't heard previously from Tangerine Dream.
Correct.
Tell me about the approach you took to integrating voices into your typically instrumental work.
Now, for instance, we just used female voices, and the reason for that is that females work much closer with a subconsciousness, and they're much closer to that kind of spiritual level. It's because a female consciousness is not so intellectual structured that it's not meant to be. It's better or worse, or it's less than a male consciousness. It's just completely different. A male is reacting completely different to things. He is more organized. He is more direct. He always knows what to do. At least he thinks that's that way. And a female works from a much deeper level of consciousness, and even if it's conscious for a female, that's a fact. I don't know. Sometimes it isn't, but it doesn't matter at the final end, And so by talking to females about the lyric structure and about the meaning of the entire book, I was really surprised. They all came up with a lot of ideas, and it fit perfectly into what we wanted to say.
What about how you specifically integrated their voices into your music? I've listened to dozens of your albums, and I don't recall this depth of vocals before. It wasn't easy, to put it that way, because as you said, not having a mass of experience working with vocals like most other bands have, 99% of all bands, if they are not into jazz or classical, they use vocals, and we haven't that much, and so for us it was quite a new area, and therefore maybe we didn't have the burden of produce something brand new or something different. Or for us it was the pure element of the voice we had to integrate. We used the voice like an instrument, more or less, and transporting the lyrics and the words as a kind of a deeper meaning. The reason why we use, for instance, different languages, is that talking about the point mankind has finally to reach, or mankind has to understand as a goal in life, that's universal, that's cosmopolitical. And so using all those languages was just a little bit of an like pointing a bit into that direction, and so most of the lyrics were translated from one language into the other because we had to take care about copyrights and that sort of thing, and so by doing it, we obviously tried to take care about the original writing, which was Italian.
You've been amazingly prolific as a composer. I would assume that you have some sort of system for composing music.
I do have, yes. And it's so simple that I myself are always laughing about it whenever it comes to my own attention, is to forget myself. It's as simple as that, as soon as I step into a working process with my ego, with here I am, I know myself, I'm the one who is doing whatever needs to be done, then I fail. And I had that again and again, and those days when that occurs, and when it hits me and try to get over me as a it's me, and it never works. I don't know what it is practically, but it works perfectly the other way around. That I really get lost into sounds and musical structures, and so that I can follow all those lines, all those parameters, and it's a funny story. For instance, I always say when a composition is about 60% finished, then it takes you over. It becomes sort of a life on its own. It's like an other individual which has questions to ask, hey, you want to do it that way or better that way? And it goes to the point where you may, as a conscious person sitting in front of your computer, and you would say, hey, that's it's ready, and you listen to it again, and all of a sudden you realize, wow, it's not ready. The piece itself is asking for something better or something different, and you have to listen to it, and that's a very, very private, very intimated process.
Do you just sit down in front of some sort of software system or some workstation? How do you go about putting notes?
Yeah, I mean, in our days now, I work purely from a software-driven computer system, using just plugins, all those sound software which is available today, and some is specifically made up for our needs, and some other stuff, it's very common and everybody can buy it in a shop nearby, and so it's sequencer based. And I guess we are, as far as the working tools are concerned, we are nothing special. We use the same stuff like most of the composers today. What's the I would say dramatic change for myself is that I got rid of all those outboard equipment, which we had through all the years, tons and tons of equipment and analog stuff and later digital stuff, and I got rid of that because working and composing today, it's much easier with all those modern tools you've got today.
You've said in the past that making music for you isn't about enjoyment and that it can be a painful process because you take it so seriously.
Exactly. It's not just that it's something you have to take it seriously. The pain comes from what I explained before, that a piece of music, it's taking over, and it's forcing you, it's nearly suppressing you to work much more into a direction of more quality, of more university, of more soundscapes. You may by starting the piece you never have thought of, and all in a sudden you are in the process of getting deeper and deeper into it, and I can tell you, sometimes you need a sound for a piece of music which is about 80 to 90% finished, and you won't find that bloody sound, You're running through all your software, through all your sound banks, and whatever is possible to create with all that stuff you've created already, nothing fits, and that's a situation where it gets really painful, and if you have such a situation 3-4 times a day, it really hurts, it's very time consuming, and it's enervating, and it's hell sometimes.
Is there anything enjoyable about the process?
Of course it is. The most enjoyable moment is when you are like a piece of music is finished. It's really finished, and that's it. The feeling you've got, it's like the most relaxed feeling you can think of. You just flip back into your chair and relax and listen to the music like it wasn't you who has it composed, and that's a very funny situation, because it's so far away from your ego. It just exists, and you can participate. Even as a composer, you can participate on such music like you have not composed it, and just listen to it, and that's some life on its own. That's an absolute great moment.
Early Tangerine Dream gigs were completely based on improvisation.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what role improvisation plays in your creative process today.
It's, if you want to put it that way, as far as live concerts concerned, there isn't that much improvisation anymore, simply because the working tools are completely different. And the equipment today allows things you even couldn't dream about 20 years ago. So there is a need of controlling various devices, and so you can't simply sit there, switch on a sequence, and and start playing some lines over it, and add some chords or some drummings. I mean, today you have to structure things even before, and you have to go much deeper into it, and things are developing. I mean, we are not in the year 1973 anymore, and but the process of composing in the first place is some sort of improvisation. If you start playing around with rhythm structures, or if you play chords or melodies, or looking for the right sound, you improvise, because you are not, no composer on that planet is as good as Mozart, for instance. He just wrote down what he heard. But that time is over. No one on this planet is able just to transform what happens in his head, You hear melodies, of course. You hear a whole structure of a piece, in your imagination. But the way of transforming it into a listenable sound, into an audio signal, that more or less has gone. That was a incredible, genius type of thing those great composers were equipped with.
You've scored many movies over the years, and I'm curious how creating movie soundtracks has affected the way you approach your other studio albums.
We more or less, or I better said, I myself, I finished doing soundtracks about 10 years ago, simply because I felt really, how to say it, a bit, more or less prostituted, And it's a great piece of work to work with specifically those Hollywood people. We had a great time. A lot of professionals, great characters, great producers, great directors, so I don't want to miss a time. But after we did it for over about 16 years, which is quite a long period of time, and after that period, I myself felt there is so much I want to explain to myself and to others, about music, which won't fit into any movie, and the way soundtracks are produced, the way the music is recorded in a studio for a big screen, that did make me really tired, more or less, and I felt so much creativity I could not bring in there, and so often, you did create a soundtrack, yourself, felt that's it. I mean, that's great. It fits. It's perfect. And then for whatever reason, somebody stepped in and said, yeah, sounds great, but it's absolutely not what we are waiting for. And then you went for a second-class soundtrack, because the first class you had to put out, And that experience I didn't want to have anymore, so that's why I stepped out.
You used the very strong word prostituted. Can you tell me what you meant by that specifically?
It's simply because the rule in a movie industry is that nearly everybody, makes his work for hire, and you are hired to do the best you can. And you are chosen because you have a specific skill, or you have a certain way of playing or composing, which other people think is right for their project, and that's why they put you in. And which is fine, which is great in the first place. But then, if you do not meet their expectations, whatever their expectations are, and whatever they've got in mind, then you all of a sudden are not the best man anymore, right? And if you can move around and do what they want, and can explain it their way, and compose it their way, then you're the good guy again. If you fail, you may be kicked off, of the project, and somebody else will step in, And the whole behavior with a creative musician, I don't like. Simply that, my music has a value which won't fit into a cartoon type of thing.
Recent years have seen you completely re-record both Tangerine Dream records, and I know you're re-recording your solo albums now.
Right.
What makes you want to pursue that path, given all the new music you have in your head?
Not easy, but to be honest with you, the main reason is that long ago we signed contracts which did not allow us to use those master recordings for our own releases. So we had to re-record our composition to release it again. And we had a huge trouble, for instance, with Virgin Records, you kept all our releases, under the carpet, and didn't release it very well, and didn't bring it up to a new technical standard, which it's supposed to be brought up, and so after many years of complaining and writing and talking, we decided to re-record some of the stuff, and finally we will maybe end up re-recording all and everything, just to make sure that the composition itself, has that sort of quality and is available on the market.
There must be some pretty significant philosophical issues involved in those decisions for you.
Of course it is, because, if you're a composer, as we think we are, you're in it for the music. And I don't care about Mr. Branson's Virgin Atlantic fleet, I just wanted to express my philosophy in life in music, and even if he was still the president and the owner of Virgin Records, he refused to let me out of my contract, and so therefore, or give our rights back, And so therefore there was no other way, to keep the music, the spirit of the music, and to make the music available to the market by re-recording it.
Is that a frustrating or annoying process?
Absolutely. It's a very annoying process because those people, and I never understood that. I mean, the Virgin people, they had enough money. When Ken Berry was the president of EMI, I wrote him a letter saying, hey, man, I mean, you've got no problem money-wise. You've got no problem with me. You've got no problem letting me out of my obligations, and all he said was, look at your contract.
Well, what I meant was it must be frustrating to spend your time re-recording old music.
Yeah, that's true. It is frustrating because, I mean, you are very close to, on one hand, to the spirit because, I mean, you did it yourself or with other colleagues. And but what's frustrated you is to step back in time, and it's a time which was part of my life, okay, but not necessarily I want to feel the same things again, But you have to, otherwise you can't re-record those stuff,
Well, in 1998, you chose to completely break free from record labels, and you founded TDI Music.
Correct.
Tell me about that decision and what it meant to you.
To be honest, I mean, I signed up with most of the existing record labels, in Europe and America, Japan, Australia, wherever. And I always was frustrated because no one understood what we wanted. And I guess I'm very familiar with a lot of artists, who felt the same way, And so what else you can do? I mean, you want to have your own music available on the entire planet. Everybody should listen to it. Everybody, if possible, should get it in a local record store. And therefore, you've thought through years and years, all those huge companies are the best one to help you on such desire, And then you have to experience again that they've had no interest at all in the music, They just were looking at the stock exchange and they were looking at your sales figures or in which way they can prostitute you again, and so you had to jump up and down and do whatever they wanted, and. It's the same story every musician will tell you today, more or less, who left the big industry scene, and therefore we founded our own label and realized after we struggled quite a bit, I mean, it's not easy to do that. After we struggled quite a bit, that finally it turned out to be very successful and very, it's a very cool thing and a very relaxed situation. You can do whatever you want. You can release what you want, and so there is nobody who can just interfere what you want to say.
You once said politics, religion, and science have filed their own bankruptcy claims long ago, but art can at least attempt to convey the truth.
That's true.
Tell me how you go about conveying the truth with your music.
It depends on what's your definition about truth is. What everybody's definition about truth is. And in my own opinion, 6.5 billion people on this planet, have 6.5 billion truths. It depends on what your goal in life is and what your perception, what your lifestyle, up to your philosophy and religions and philosophy, or even in your simple day-to-day life. So, truth for me is simply beyond all that. I don't think in that kind of dialectical work where you're always smashed in each direction from plus to minus, from minus to plus, there won't be any truth at all, there is no truth. And everybody who wants to tell you the truth, in my opinion, will fail, even before he started talking about it. So the truth must be somewhere beyond all that, you know. And I myself, I don't believe in churches anymore, so that is not the truth. I don't believe in politics, definitely not. There is the opposite of the truth, and so there is not much left, you know. And so I believe it's at the end of the day, everybody has to look very deep into his own system, you know. And I guess if there is a place where truth is, then you will find it within you.
How does your music communicate your truth?
As I always try to be as honest as possible. So you won't find in our music, and that's from the very first tone, any sort of a gimmick as a sort of, you know, trying to play ironic or you know, to guide people into a wrong direction, or play those foolish games with people, or try to betray them by whatever tricky type of business, you know. I hate all that, you know. I just tell people a story, you know. That's my story, or it's the story and communication with other people I work with, and that's about it. And as far as my knowledge goes, a lot of people, if they feel the same way, you know, they listen to the music again and again because they're on the same level, you know, whatever level it is. I don't want to call it the best way you can think or feel or work. It's just a level. It's just a level of the most possible honesty I can explain. Other people will explain it differently.
What role does spirituality play in the creative process for you?
I guess you can't cut off the work you do from your own personality, because, you know, it depends on what your personality is all about, you know, or how you handle your own system, or how you try to explain yourself about you, you know, what you are, what you could be, what's your way, what's the aim, what is the final result at the end of the day. And whatever you think about it, whatever your sometimes hard work is, you know, in connection to your own development, all that will reflect into the music, because you can't, as I said, cut off yourself from what you're doing. I mean, it always is a fluid situation, you know, and it's a crossover between your personality and the final result, like a composition. You know, the composition is part of yourself, of course.
My understanding is that you've studied a lot of comparative religions in your life.
That's true.
Given your knowledge and all of that, how do you define spirituality for yourself?
I tell you what, I don't believe in death, for instance, you know. It's something which is told to people by churches and by some leaders who have a certain aim, you know, to get people to that point. Nothing dies, really, even if it just disappears from our visual receptions, you know, and even if it's somewhere we can't reach it by our senses, you know. But I believe in my personal long studies, which now goes on for about 45 years. I started studying at the age of 15, that there is a complete different system and world beyond everything, you know, and that it goes farther and farther and farther, you know, from one level to the other, you know, and the system we are bounded in, and more or less framed or jailed in, you know, it's the most deepest level of all, you know, and from here it goes up, and it's like call it an elevator thing, you know, and it depends on which way you can open yourself to complete different and new ideas, you know, and all I hate is those old-fashioned type of thing, you know, you make your living, and if you've got a good living, then you get into paradise after dying, and there you live forever with all angels and nice people and blah, blah, blah. Bullshit, I don't believe in that. I mean, life or a real spirituality is something much more sophisticated and much more, it needs a much more open-minded consciousness, But it depends, you see. I mean, I don't want to say, okay, I'm right and the others are wrong. It's just my way.
Your work as a guitarist is rarely discussed. And tell me about the importance of the instrument in your evolution as a musician.
And my personal view, and once again, I just can't talk for myself. The instrument is just a materialization of your thoughts, of your consciousness, of what you feel, the way you can explore your senses or use your senses in exploring what's in yourself. So the instrument itself is nothing. It depends in which way you use it, like a guitarist, I mean, there is a guitar, 6 strings or 12 strings, whatever you want, and there are millions of guitarists around the globe, and there are just a handful which will be, remembered forever, and the rest is good or bad, but there are not as soulful, if you want to use that term, as those few, and the same with the piano, like the piano is the most used composing tool on the planet, and that for hundreds and hundreds of years, and you could say, okay, sitting in front of a piano, what can I create which has not been created before? That's impossible, but it is possible. In my own view, maybe 5% or even less than 5% of all music, of sounds, of audio signals which are possible to produce are produced. I mean, there is so much more, and the future will explain what I mean. There is so much more people can get into. I mean, it just matters in which way you create instruments to explain yourself, and now we overstepped the border from like finger work to mental work, right? That's the time we are into right now. It's a very, very adventurous time now, and so we are leaving the field of 6 strings and keys and knobs and so on. Now we are moving deep into the abstract form of creating sounds, and that's something absolutely new, which has not been on the scenery, as long as you can think of. And you starting becoming more a sound sculpture instead of a soloist who is, showing how well he is trained and how many hours he has tried to learn his instrument.
Does the guitar still play a role in your creative process today?
A bit, yes, because it's still a way of expressing myself very direct, but it not necessarily has to be heard on tape, computer, or a CD or whatever. Very often I play just for myself, to have that sort of relief, of a certain type of tension, and so I play it for myself and listen to it. And it's like a conversation with an instrument. And from time to time, when I feel that I can open myself really widely, then I start recording this stuff, But most of the time, I play just for myself. Different than the keys. The keys always are used to express myself for a final recording, or so it will be released to the public. With the guitar, it's the opposite.
Tell me what Jerome offers you as a creative partner that your previous collaborators in Tangerine Dream didn't.
Honestly, nothing dramatically different. It's he was chosen to become part of the band simply because of his musical talent, and he is not a trained musician like most of the other colleagues were. So I didn't train him myself, and I guess he was just a bit trained by others, but he had a great senses for sounds and could put things together in a very unusual way, and what I liked the most was that he very often put things upside down, so that he did show the unusual way of how to use a sound or use a rhythm or things like that. That what did impress me. Apart from that, he was the same normal guy like all the other colleagues I had. There was nothing dramatic different. As far as the role father-son is concerned, we did have and still have a lot of discussions and even hard arguments against each other. For instance, that he is moving very strongly in the DJ direction, which is okay, but that's not my piece of cake, and so therefore we have even some arguments where we can't meet each other.
Would you describe it as an equal partnership?
Sometimes yes. If it works fine, yes. If not, no, not at all. No, it reaches from a very harmonic and cool working platform up to a very furious and horrifying fight about something which the both of us don't like. So. It depends really, but I guess that's the sort of thing which you will find all over the places, where people work together and have their arguments against what the other maybe has to do or better shouldn't do.
Can you give me an example of an argument you might have with Jerome about music?
For instance, he is very much influenced, by the brand new type of things, the for instance, drum and bass and hip hop music, trip hop and breakbeat, for instance. He's very heavy into breakbeat, which is okay, but you can imagine, somebody is working quite a lot on that area, then working together with somebody else, there's still that sort of influence, and some things are great, it fits perfectly, but 3 minutes later, there's something in rhythm or in sound, for instance, a very deep bass sound, which make the subwoofer really collapse, and my opinion should be limited, and he said no. It should go on, it should blast the whole thing off, and so there are a couple of those points, where we can't get together, but that's a minor scene we are into.
How has working with Jerome so closely as a creative collaborator affected your personal relationship with him?
It has, of course, yeah. In a good way, if it works, if it's sort of a real exchange of ideas, of strategies, of what could be done next, and even when we stepped into the old scenery of Tangerine Dream, when we were talking about remastering or re-recording things, it could be quite interesting, to hear somebody's opinion, which means he wasn't part of that time, he was just hearing or experience the whole thing as like reading very old books, But on the other hand, as far as the future is concerned, I guess we have sometimes very different opinions. And so we will see how it can be worked out.
Well, you were talking about the fact that Jerome is very much into a lot of the modern movements, breakbeats, techno, etc.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, which is not a bad thing, you know. I listen to the stuff in the same way, you know. I listen to all kind of music, but to be more specific, if you, for instance, like when you go into a third part of Dante, you know, I cannot imagine in any way putting some breakbeats in there, you know. And maybe I could for a small part, but it's definitely not something which you can compare to any stylistic development right now. So the whole aim I have is to be completely different from all and everything which exists on the modern music scene, you know.
Well, what about the multiple volumes of Dream mixes you put out?
That was quite interesting because I do like it quite a lot because he has taken all those old stuff, you know, and put it in 10 times in a washing machine, and so we had a result which I felt had still the same spirit of the originals, but was easier to transport into the time we live in right now. With other words, to reach younger people, you know, to have a bit more attention on the market of the younger generation, you know. And I did like that quite a lot.
Well, you were saying you could never imagine hearing your music with some of these elements, but there you go. You do have some of your music with those elements on those records.
But to be honest, I wasn't part of it. You know, that was you know, I did participate on some playings, and some of the originals I re-recorded. But the way it was brought together, it was more his work, and so that's something which is okay. But if he would have done it in a way that he would have lost all the feeling and all the spirits of the original, I would have said, okay, give it a different name or forget about it. You know, it's not what it originally is supposed to be. You know?
What's your perspective on the influence Tangerine Dream has had on the electronica movement during the 90s and early 2000s?
I guess much more than a lot of people are willing to tell the public, because I know a lot of very famous musicians who know a lot of Tangerine Dream's work. Some of them know all of it. For whatever reason, you know, it's maybe not so, I don't know how to call it, not so interesting maybe for them to talk about it in the public. But I guess the influence is immense, you know. It's really immense. I mean, I don't want to overrate the work we did, but the fact is, you know, that we started back in 1970 a kind of music which was completely unknown to people, you know, using sequences, using electronic type of thing, and now it's common business. You know, when I said back in the late 70s that one day everybody will use a synthesizer, you know, people laughed their head off, you know, and then some journalist called me and simply an idiot, you know. I don't understand the music scene, and the guitar will never fade away, and then the piano will never fade away. No, I didn't say that. It maybe will not fade away forever, and it's okay. But at the same time, you know, there will be a development in sound creation and music creation and recording techniques, you know, which definitely has its roots in the early 70s. That's the truth, and everybody can watch it if you move into the studio or if you have a look at stage, you know, to see what happens.
Looking back across 37 years, how would you describe how Tangerine Dream has evolved from a musical perspective?
I never talked about it really. It's maybe the first time, because the whole Tangerine Dream thing had just one idea, and that runs now for over about 37 years, as you said. And it's to start with the unorganized chaos, like on electronic meditation. That was chaos to my opinion, even at a time when it was created, and it is still kind of an unorganized type of composition, and it moved on, and hopefully one day we will, in our terms, will reach the highest possible point of organized music. So that goes on for all the time. You know, we're always trying to be more, to organize sounds, you know. Maybe not in a way classical music is organized, or a perfect band playing together concept. It's more that out of the pool of subconscious music feel, or out of the pool of given sounds, the way man can create sounds, you know, the way out of something very abstract, there to try to get through the mental barriers, you know, to get something through which could be called very, very personal and very subjective organized music. That's what the aim was.
Is there a way you could encapsulate or describe what you believe Tangerine Dream's legacy is?
Tangerine Dream is nothing more than helping ourselves and others to get out of a jail, without being able not to explain more about it. I mean, everybody who feels like trapped or jailed in this life should use that music to have a glimpse of an idea what could be next. Tangerine Dream is in fact a concept. It is a concept. And the concept can have people who are guiding the concept, helping it or developing it, and being good colleagues and good creators. And I really enjoyed playing with so many creative and gifted people, and I don't want to really honestly miss one of them. But the deep philosophy within the music itself, or the idea of the creation of music, you know, I guess, to be very honest, no one has really understood, you know. Even if people were so close to the real center point of it, but it's very hard to describe. It's very hard to transfer those deep philosophies behind the music, you know, because in my view, the real music can't be heard, you see, and that's maybe a paradox, but to me it's not a paradox, you know. Like when I listen to a Bach symphony, right, the real essence of the music is when what you can hear is over. And at the moment when the music stops, then the real music starts.
Do you have the idea in your head that Tangerine Dream will continue in some way after you've passed
Yes,
on?
it will. It will definitely continue, but without musicians playing music. It will continue in the consciousness and the head and you know, the emotional receptive systems of others, you know. So people will listen to the music, you know, I don't know for how long as CDs or whatever format will exist in 10 or 20 years. People definitely will listen to that kind of music. But you see, I myself, I did over about 865 compositions in all those years, you know. I guess it's enough, huh?
You are the lone constant in Tangerine Dream, aren't you, across its whole history?
And it's even with all the colleagues I had, one thing it's very often overseen, you know. I started the band in '67 with a concept, you know, and the concept still exists, you know. And when I stopped doing it, you know, for whatever reason, you know, when I'm too old or whatever, then I will explain what Tangerine Dream really means. A lot of people were saying, it has something to do with the Beatles song, and others with drugs, and it's all wrong. It's behind every single letter there is a word which explains what the whole thing is all about, and then I will say it.
You're working on a book now, right?
Yeah, that's true. It's a kind of it's an interview. Somebody is interviewing me for months and months, and about all and everything. The book it's partly split into history, into stories, and film music, and colleagues, and all sorts of things, and so it's quite interesting because it's so fluent. You see, it's not something like writing a book. It should give people who will read it sooner or later. It will give them a feeling to participate on the actual situation, because it's the truth as it just passes by,
I sincerely appreciate your time and for giving me such excellent answers.
Oh, I appreciated really your questions, and to tell you the truth, whatever the truth is, as we were talking about it, not very often someone is stepping that deep into it, and I guess you are very well informed. I have to give you that back, okay?